Okay, so this is yet another episode in air quotes of document don't create, right? So literally I was in the middle of solving a problem, which is that my goal is to create a custom GPT tool with ChatGPT 4 that will act as a project management assistant. Okay. Now, if you found that you have been in a situation where you were not executing as effectively as you wanted, then that might be a really clear and present sign that you might need to work on your project management game. So before I begin, let me walk you through a little story about how all this began. Okay. So if you've paid attention to people like Perry Marshall or other people in the direct response community, one thing you hear discussed often, also I believe Sam Ovens, who is the founder of School, has talked about this, is the importance of knowing your strengths, and the Colby A test is a fantastic tool to help you do that. So basically, the whole idea is that we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and to the extent to which we can build a business model around our strengths and that support our weaknesses, we can get further faster, which is the definition of 80-20. So I found that I had some sticking points with a very ambitious and exciting project that I'm working on, and that had me revisit my Colby A test that, if you can see in the bottom right hand corner, I took over almost to the day 8 years ago. And so what this made me realize is that I need some strong follow through support in certain areas. And so a project manager that's good tends to have very high follow through skill sets. And so I said, okay, before I go out and, or rather, the precursor to going out and connecting with a human talent to work with, why don't I leverage ChatGPT to create a custom GPT that could support me with follow through on projects, right? So sometimes you might have a need for some strong follow through talent in your organization. Number one, your strength is in analysis. You might be the kind of person that is a investor that is masquerading as an entrepreneur, and you find that you can spend hours doing deep analysis that might take other people ages to do and feel energized by that, right? So you have a strong fact finder energy, you're a strong strategist. But when it comes to the minute details, that's not your strong suit, right? So one of the things that is important when you're thinking about project management is to use a chess analogy, or to use a analogy of a relay race. In chess, you have the opening, the middle game, and the end game. And as I've been working with an accountability coach, I saw that he asked me for my goals, which were in-game goals that I had a lot of clarity around. I hired him to work on my opening, if you will, but what I realized is that the middle game was a little shoddy. And so the middle game is really about thinking of in the quote-unquote 12-week year phases. So the weekly goals towards a milestone. A really great example is that if you want to accomplish something in one quarter, that will be 12 middle game goals of one goal per week. And so I realized that I needed some support in the middle game. All right. Another way of looking at this is that if you're running a relay race, right, the person who starts the relay race, that explosive energy here, is not necessarily the kind of talent that it takes to be in this position, is not the kind of talent it takes to be in the middle game or in the end game. And so often we just think about one person running the race, but really a business is a company, right? Company means a collection of people. And so I really want to encourage you to think through your own follow through and ask yourself, okay, am I good at the end game? Am I good at the opening? Am I good at the middle game? And then really figure out how you can use a machine intelligence and or human intelligence to work on the part of the game that isn't your strong suit. And I highly recommend that you look at your Kobe score, because if you, let's say you have a high quick start, then you might be strong in one particular game and not the other. You might have a high implementer, like the opposite of me, and you might need another game, right? So your Kobe score can really help you understand proverbially which phase of the game you're best at, so you can get help in the other phases of the game, or proverbially which position in the relay race you're best at, so that you can know what you're not best at and you can delegate that part out. Okay, so that's the backdrop. So basically what I decided to do is that I'm going about creating a support bot, if you will, that is going to help with the middle game. And obviously I have worked with project managers, and I do project management. So I know what tools of the trade are popular. And so unlike this very general instruction, make a software engineer who helps format my code, I'm being a lot more specific. And I'm saying make a project manager if you want to turn this to a template or operationalize this, say make a insert name of the position who is skilled in, and then you can list the type of tools that they are skilled in, if you like, or you could just say who is skilled in, and then you list the tools they're skilled in, and then what you're telling the AI is, don't just give me somebody who's a very generic software engineer, but they have some subject matter expertise in the tools of the trade. The reason why it's super relevant and useful to have your bot pull in the knowledge, if you will, of specific tools, is that then you'll be able to ask questions that are based on your own particular tech stack. And so the takeaway right here is that if you want to build your own GPT, go ahead and look at what your current tech stack is. Or here's a little hack: if you're not quite sure for a particular position what tools your GPT should be skilled at, go ahead and go to a hiring website and pull up some job descriptions and see the kind of hard skills that they are hiring for. But this is just hard skills. I'll probably also go in and insert some soft skills, right? Because it's easy to talk about hard skills, right, which are technical skills, but you can also go in and type in, and they are also skilled at, okay, insert, soft skills. It could say listening, all right, whatever, empathy, whatever you think the soft skills that a great project manager, okay, they're proactive, active, okay, whatever skills in the past have been really good when you were working with a project manager, or again looking at the job descriptions on job sites and pulling those in will help you. All right, the final tip I will add is I like to give my ChatGPTs an alliterative name, just because it helps me to remember. So I'm probably going to call this ChatGPT Project Manager Pam, okay, or Project Manager Patricia, just to kind of amorphize her, if you will. And when I'm thinking about my daily workflow and I'm like, oh, I got to do project management, like, oh, well, let me just go in and key in some prompts to project management Pam or Patricia or whatever. And so what's going to happen here, the next step is, once I set up this ChatGPT, custom GPT, I am going to prompt it with an end game goal, right? Example, let's say you want something done in 2 financial quarters or 6 months. And then I'm going to get some feedback on middle game milestones. All right. So again, let's say 2 financial quarters would be 24 weekly milestones. If you wanted something done in 8 weeks, it would be 8 weekly milestones. The last thing I would say is that this is just a guide. I am a little concerned when people are using ChatGPT like they do Google, which is the first thing that pops up. They just take it as accurate. creating the ChatGPT is just a step, right? You have to optimize it, and just because it says something doesn't mean it's true. And I would add the real advantage going forward in the future is going to be people who know how to take what the AI say at face value and to optimize them, right? Like a good editor. An editor doesn't just take the first draft of even a best-selling author's work as good. Like an editor knows what to cut and what to add. And similarly, when it comes to getting the input of the AIs, don't just take it at face value, but the ability to be able to tweak it and optimize is really what's going to set you apart. So to summarize all this, I would say step one is to know what your sticky points are. You can rewatch my video about finding a coach to get some external input, or you could journal, whatever tool you use to have some self-awareness about what your sticking points are. Sidebar, if you found that you have a few tasks that you've been procrastinating on, that's a really good example of something that might be an area you need to delegate, okay? Shout out to Dan Sullivan who talks about that. Okay, once you figure out what your sticky points are, then you want to have some awareness of what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, right? And then once you do that, you can work with a custom ChatGPT telling it that you have a particular background, let's say your Kobe score, and so when they're helping you map out middle game or end game or opening game, to use the trust analogy milestones, it is not only aware of the apps that you would use to implement it, not only does it have the requisite soft skills, but it also knows how to give you a solution tailor-made to your own strengths and weaknesses. So in this quote-unquote document, don't create session mine, I am just summarizing some of the tools. ChatGPT 4 CustomGPT, that's the first one. Second one is the Kobe score. I'm also inviting you to use the analogy of a chess game, which is the penultimate strategy mental model, opening game, middle game, and end game, and also the analogy of a relay race, understanding that a company is a collection of people, and you're not just running, you should not just be running the whole race by yourself, because the kind of person that's good at starting might not be the best person to finish, or the kind of people that are great in the middle game, as it were, are not great at the end. And so once you know what your strengths are, then you have some clarity around which part of the game you're strong at and which part you're weak at, and then you know what to delegate and what your blind spots are. All right, I hope this is helpful. This is Shola. Take care and take action.